In this lecture, you learn about the formula auditing. Formula auditing is about auditing the formulas. So the first thing that we're gonna do here is to find out which cell contains formulas. So I'm gonna go over to the formulas, click on show formulas. So this cell, this, and this all contain formulas. I'm going to get out of this by clicking on the show formulas again. Now, so I know this contains a formula. I can do the tracing. So in this cell, it depends the value from these three cells, right? Because this cell contains a formula. So these three cells are going to be the precedent. So I'm going to trace precedent. What it does here is trace precedence receives values from another cell. It's going to receive values from these three. So I click here. I'm going to go over to the formulas, trace precedence. Notice the arrow pointing here indicate there is a precedent. I'm going to remove this arrow. So I'm going to go over here and click on remove arrows. Now, if I click over here and I say, okay, I want to do a trace dependent, well, that won't work, right? Because trace dependent provides values to another cell, and this receive not provide. So if I go over here and click on trace dependence, there's an error. No formula refer to the active cell. So I'm going to go over here, click on this cell, and I know that this cell is the sum of G3 to G4 over here. It can receive the value from here, right? So I'm going to click over here and I'm going to go over here and click on trace precedence. So these two provide a value to this. So these two are the precedents to this cell. So I'm going over here. I'm going to click on remove arrow. If I go over here and I say, okay, which is the cell trace dependent? So trace dependent provides values to another cell. So if I click over here and I'm going to go and click on trace dependent, right there, it points over here. I'm going to remove the arrow again. And over here, I want to know what the trace precedent is of this cell over here. We know that if references worksheet 2022 C5 over here, right? So the trace precedent should be this worksheet in 2022 C5 point to this. So over here, I'm going to click and choose this cell, then go over to trace precedence. And you see the symbol of the icon symbol of the worksheet with the arrow pointing over here. This is the worksheet and worksheet 2022 C5. Going back over here, I'm gonna remove the arrow again. That looks good so far, right? With all this tracing. The next step I'm gonna do here is I want to set up a watch window. When we go over here in 2022, we know that the value over here is provided to over here. So when I change the value over here, it will change to here, right? So I'm going to go over to 2022, this over here, in this cell. I'm going to go over to the formulas, click on the watch window, and notice 2023 is this sheet, right? And it's the sum of G3 to G4. Right now, the value is 1.9 million. So let's say I'll go over here. I'm going to change it to 500,000. Notice the change in value. Right now is 1.9 million. Now when I press enter over here, it dropped down to 1.4 million. And this watch window flows So when I click back in 2023, it's still there. Give it a try. I see you in the next lecture.